Moon and sun, friends, and welcome to a special two-part episode on Caves of Qud. This part will be a very spoilery deep dive into the story as guided by the amazing soundtrack by Craig Hamilton, the composer of this game. It doesn't spoil everything, just the main quest up to a certain point. The final piece of the story will leave you to experience yourself, just as long as you don't look at the wiki too much. Part two of this standard grog pod, or part two of this will be a standard grog pod episode where we'll focus more on the gameplay and mechanics in Caves of Qud. But I felt that the story was important enough to have a detailed focus for it. Did win a Hugo Award after all. So if you want to have minimal story spoilers, our next episode will be more up your alley on our regular publishing schedule. And so without further ado, we begin our journey with the soundtrack and story from Caves of Qud. That is Pilgrim's Path by the composer to Caves of Qud, Craig Hamilton, kicking us off here with all sorts of uh, thematic tone that I think is really going to help set the stage for what's to come here. But yes, welcome to a story and soundtrack focus episode. I am your robotic DJ host of this special two-parter, Scott Berger, and with me are my usual beguiled co-hosts.
It's Colin. I'm not sure if we're doing things for this one, so I'm just a regular guy listening to some music today.
There we go.
Oh, but I'm Andrew Cudman Harshman here at your service, and with us, hello. Scott. What do we have in store?
Yes, we have a special guest joining us, someone who's very patient in helping to tutor me on how to learn to play Caves of Qud almost a whole year ago. So without any further ado, to ask our special guest here to give maybe the least humble introduction that they can to
least humble. Geez. Okay. Hi, I'm Big Simple on YouTube, but you can call me Aaron, or you can call me Bingle is actually my online alias these days, which is pretty fun. There's a bastardization one of my friends gave to my branding, which I thought was very fun. I play Caves of Qud. That is the least humble thing I can say about myself. And I did some tutorials once.
And you've been playing it for a long time. You've been playing it long before the 1.0 release last year, for sure.
I've been playing it for 5 years, which is actually pretty late in the game, considering Caves of Qud has been in development for about 17 years. and I don't even have a iceberg's worth, like tip of iceberg's worth of hours compared to some of the people in the Discord. Certainly not as much as some of my friends and or the devs. But I have a least humble's amount of time in Caves of Qud.
Well, you've
Yeah,
you've at
finally.
least played with the devs and some other people who've contributed to the game much more than any of us loudmouth podcast hosts can say.
Yeah, finally
I'm
we
allowed to
have.
say I've contributed.
That's great. I'm just glad that we finally have someone who seems to actually like roguelike games on the podcast. We finally have someone who's qualified. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, no worries. You might be surprised at the reveal of that last statement, though. I've had some interesting relationship stuff with traditional roguelikes in general.
Well, I think part of the goal for this two-parter is to help set the stage. Caves of Qud is a brutal and long game where I think a lot of people can easily bounce off of it, and I think part of the motivation here is to showcase what's in store for you if you stick with it, and why this game is so well received as it is. I think just a few days ago, I think PC Gamer just listed this as its top. What was it, number 7 of its top 100 games of 2025 or something like that.
Yep.
So there's a reason why, and I think if you're one of many people who goes through the game, you're just like, if you're like me when you were first playing it without a tutor and you were like, what is this? This is inscrutable nonsense, and you didn't quite know the epic that was about to unfold before you, you could be forgiven for sure. So that's part of the goal here is if you have no interest in actually playing the game, maybe you can listen to this and be like, okay, maybe I can get what people are so hyped up about. But
yes, as an artistic endeavor, music, story, etc.
The whole package. Something that you don't find from NetHack or Angband, unfortunately. So we will I guess we'll be going through most of the soundtrack, most of the main story quest here to kind of help unfurl and untangle some of that. And this first track that we're greeted with, Pilgrim's Path, is kind of such a good stage setter for this. I think it just has such good, like, moody, weird, like, alienness to it, with like the very low bass buzzing and these like hushed whispers. I wrote what I have in here, my Google Doc notes. Cyberpunk Vangelis is what I have written down, which I think, it would fits the theme of kind of what we're going for here.
It is actually extremely apt.
And can't forget the little noises in the background.
Yeah,
I have to assume it's some like mushroom creature communicating to its friends. Or
strap in.
Yeah.
And I think like this title screen just looks great. I think it really sets a sense of wonder, and like there's these little yellow engraving and carving things that just show up right in front of your face that are, that's a neat detail, but as you play through the game, you're like, oh wow, okay, like it's just right up in front of your face of like, there's so many good callbacks, there's so many good like story setup sequences throughout this that I'm hoping I can do justice with my 38 pages of Google Doc notes here. So
Wow,
I didn't quite copy the entire wiki in, but I did most of it. But yeah, as we start our Pilgrim's Path here with Caves of Qud, we'll launch into our next piece of music here for Mehmet's Morning by Craig
Yeah,
Hamilton.
I just wanted to mention for the Pilgrim's Path, it's worth mentioning, I think, that in addition to being an introduction to the soundtrack, that track plays while you're setting up your game, and it's long enough that you can be throwing together your mutant or your truekin or whatever you want, that you would probably be done making your character and setting your starting point in the world, that you would have gotten through most of that track. And I think it's really interesting to do something like that, because it's not just an introduction to the soundtrack, it's an introduction, it's sort of like also ambient as you're setting up your character. So it's kind of a dual function there a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely more than the title screen music on, if you're playing other games, you're like, I'm clicking through as fast as I can just to get into my game.
Yeah.
Versus, you could spend, especially if you're a new player, like most of us are, you could spend a lot of time looking through the options. So I've definitely heard this song multiple times in the last week, just because I've been like, I'm going to look through all of the options of what, even if I don't think I'm going to use them, like I want to know what hook feet are.
Yeah.
Get those burrowing claws. Well, yeah, depending on your character creation, one option that you might have is to start in the village of Joppa, which I think is recommended for new players. It's kind of like a good starting village to start with. And our next track, Mehmet's Morning, is the audio that greets you once you arrive. So up next will be Mehmet's Morning by our composer Craig Hamilton. You're listening to Mehmet's Morning by our composer Craig Hamilton. And this is the background music that greets you as you come to the non-procedurally generated starting village of Joppa. And you're greeted with a very easily skippable dialogue box that pops up that I think is helpful to stop and just kind of take notice of. That pops up and says, on the 12th of some random Caves of Qud date, you arrive at the oasis hamlet of Joppa, along the far rim of the Mograhi, the Great Salt Desert. All around you, moisture farmers tend to groves of viridian water vine. There are huts wrought from rock salt and brine stock. On the horizon, Qud's jungles strangle chrome steeples and rusted archways to the earth. Further and beyond, the fabled spindle rises above the fray and pierces the cloud-ribboned sky, which I think is just the best way to kind of set the stage for what's ahead of us here, with extremely flowery writing and something that you could also easily skip in 2 seconds. That you're like, wait. I think the first time that I played this game, I was like, what am I supposed to do? There's all this kind of stuff in front of me, but I think it's worth pointing out that that message packs so much into it without really realizing, and that the starting village also has kind of the whole game almost in a nutshell, narrative wise. For at least for starting breadcrumbs, you'll inevitably press 0 on your keypad to auto explore this village and just be like, all right, just give me everything that you got. And you'll encounter a shrine to Resheph, the last sultan, which is described as this shrine depicts a significant event from the life of the ancient Sultan Resheph. In 3 AR, Resheph cleaned the marshlands of the plagues of the gyre and taught Abram to sow water vine along its fertile tracks. Yeah, that's great. They got a neat little shrine to someone. Awesome. You'll run around and you'll encounter some village elders who will send you on quests, and the village tinkerer. And basically every village or every starting location that you'll begin in this game has that kind of thing. It has specifically a shrine to Resheph. It has, I think we can also talk about breadcrumbs to the other sultans. But it has a village tinkerer who has like mechanical equipment for you to do or to look through. Some kind of village elder with a quest. But in this case, they're very specific. They are things that are driving this main narrative force here in Joppa. If you maybe talk to Elder Irudad first, he'll send you on a quest of, all this water vine stuff that we're farming here is being eaten by these pests. Go and figure out what's eating the water vine here. And in this quest, it will send you north out of your starting village to, I believe, Red Rock, which is kind of like an introductory dungeon. You'll go and do stuff there, and you'll eventually find some purple-looking alien creature that really just looks super out of place for this area that you're just barely getting to grips with. You'll
Does it look out of place?
That's a great question.
I feel like there's nothing that's quite out of place.
It's worth noting that Mehmet's actually the one that gives you that quest.
Yes.
Which is what the track is named after, right?
Yes, that's true. Yes. But I believe you're instructed to bring it back to Elder Irudad.
You have to bring it back to Irudad.
And by doing so, you plop this corpse on the table in front of him, and he says, "Oh, what's this? A warted leg? Foul smell of sour gum? Moon and sun. This is a Girshling." And your player character is just like, what are you talking about? What is any of this? And he goes on to say, it's a creature of plague. This one covered in slick and muscled out the bilge hose of sleeping Algogot under the cave of the cloaca.
Indubitably.
But here, Girshling this far west, there must be hundreds for one to reach. Does the gyre widen again? Plagues of our great grandsires many times over, salt, darkness, Svardim frog, Girshling, which I think helps to also kind of set the tone of, well, this ancient person that the statue was erected to.
Obviously should have known, based on the Sultan statue, Chekhov's Sultan statue, that obviously that information was going to come up immediately. My word.
But it's back. The plagues of the gyre are back, and something's got to happen to it. And so you're Elder Irudad is pretty alarmed by this, but you'll be talking to some other NPCs in town, and Argive, the village tinker, who I feel like doesn't really like you at all, sends you on a couple fetch quests, one of which to go and like all good hermits of villages, go and strip copper wire out of places for him. Says, what was it? The weird wire conduit is near assembled, and once it is, we'll be able to chat with anyone in instant time. He's trying to build a Zoom chat here. From here to the Yeed Freehold. But before I can finish, I need wire. As much as you can find, at least 200 feet. You should be able to scavenge it from the rust wells. And I'm skipping over a lot here, but you go and do that in air quotes. You come back and you say, "All right," you slap it on the table. Here's your damn wire, Argive. Thanks a lot. He says, "Apprentice, come here. Something strange is occurring. The conduit is picking up a signal, some sort of repeating transmission. I cannot decipher it, however. I I lack crypto gull eggs, and well, never you mind. I have a great task for you, my apprentice. Do you accept it? And of course, you say yes. You must. Um, he says, you must seek out Barathrum the Old, the eldest and wisest tinker alive. He lives with his followers with the Barathrumites under the Arch of Gritgate to the northeast in the jungle-strangled ruins of Qud. He will know what to make of this signal. You say, who's this Barathrum? The Barathrumites? They're disciples of Barathrum, mostly Resheph, albino bear people. But like their mentor, quilled albino bears who prefer their candle-dim caves to the sun-salted surface of the jungle. 1,000 years ago, Barathrum and his kin crossed the Holmes Delta into the rusting heart of Qud. He spent centuries peeling the chrome shells of time's artifacts in his workshop. If he cannot decipher the signal, no one can.
So, question for Scott and Aaron. Is this quest, this is the main quest then?
Yes.
Are there the main quest, basically like the intro quest?
Yeah. This puts you on the path.
Are there other hooks into this kind of quest line if you're starting from other villages?
So
other places?
That is interesting. I think the only way you could potentially there's no other hooks in other procedurally generated villages to get on this path. But I think that if you went to Gritgate early without talking to Argive, you could maybe convene with them early, and then they might hear you out. But I actually feel like that's not true, and it feels like something I should try myself, is like go and talk to them without talking to Argive. But he gives you a significant quest item to hand to them, and that kind of brokers passage. Otherwise, they just tell you to get lost.
There's he gives you a stamped data disk and a droid scrambler, which will come in handy because Gritgate is protected by a bunch of protective droids. But I think like if you start in other villages and you do quests, like you can get that data disk. It just doesn't have that kind of story hook to it. They're just like, hey, here's this disk. We don't know what to do with it. Go take it to the Barathrumites kind of deal.
Yeah. So the starting quests are going to be different, but then they'll like send you on the same path, but you won't have the same kind of context that Argive gives you. Joppa gives you. I consider Joppa to be like the canonical story of Qud, but that's dangerous thinking. You can't think like that with Qud. There's no canon. There is and there isn't, at least. But
all right, I'll get it right out of my head.
Yeah, and the droid scrambler you can still obtain, but you have to go to like the ruins of Joppa if you start in a procedurally generated village.
Now on the topic of canon, we've got represented on the podcast here all stages of Qud experience. I haven't booted the game at all, and based on the soundtrack, I'm assuming that this is some kind of a cozy village management game. But real quickly, what's the like one paragraph setting here? Is this post-apocalyptic? Is this pre-apocalyptic?
Yes.
What do we have going on here? And it's, of course, sci-fi fantasy of some caliber.
Yeah, I mean, yes, to all of that.
Everything, all of the above.
It's post-apocalyptic, and it's pre-apocalypse, and then it's also post-apocalyptic. It's everything, and it's like interpretive.
Right, because of course we had the plague gyre that was referenced in the lore, and then we're sort of in the Middle Age, and then apparently it has returned. What a deal!
Yeah, and I think a good corollary for this is the tabletop RPG Gamma World, which is like, what if D&D but mutants, cyborgs, and mental warriors kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the thematic setting that this game is in. Certainly from like the character creation perspective, for sure. And I think like actual like narrative arc wise, So normally at the end of each one of these episodes, I do like a similar games segment, but for this one, I have like a similar sci-fi story segment instead, which we'll get to. But there's a number of them that I think do fit fairly well with like, yeah, like post-apocalyptic rebuilding. The world is destroyed. Everyone's a weird mutant kind of a thing. So, um,
I don't know that there's a book series called The Book of the New Sun. It very much reminds me like conceptually of this, where it's like this world is so far into the post-apocalypse that it's pre-apocalypse, and
Yeah.
it's all of the things in between. Book of the New Sun, they're like scrabbling by like the last city in the world because everything else has been turned into like radioactive jungle. And then sometimes, aliens, or maybe they're not even aliens, maybe they're just post-humans, like pop down in their spaceships and like do stuff. And I kind of get the same vibe from this, where it's like your post-apocalyptic is not even quite the right word because there have been so many eras of things happening.
Yeah, I know that Book of the New Sun has a big hand of influence over Caves of Qud and the writing, and it's one of many influences, but I know that it is one of those the sort of the end appendix, if you will, for Qud.
Yeah.
all right, we're on our quest. We have our data disk, potentially a droid scrambler if we are so prepared. We're now ready to venture forth into the jungles to head towards Gritgate. And our next music to play here will be Overworld by our composer Craig Hamilton. You are listening to Overworld from the Caves of Qud soundtrack, specifically about 2.5 minutes through this 10-minute long track, because there's quite a lot going on here, and I can't think of a better piece of music to signify that you are in a weird, mutated alien landscape than stuff with goat bleeding, people shouting weird mechanical prayers through loudspeakers, and rhinoceros snorts. Welcome to Caves of Qud. I feel like this music is just kind of perfect for like how you traverse through the overworld of this game. It feels hostile. It feels weird, uncomfortable. It almost feels like out of something like the sci-fi movie Arrival, or either like Arrival, Annihilation, or like the HBO series of like Chernobyl.
Oh hell yeah.
Huh. I feel like you're getting different vibes from this from me. Like I don't feel like this was quite as hostile as you're. I'm imagining like a weird dude in a salt marsh, and there's this friendly rhino next to him making weird grunting noises. Like
Friendly rhino.
the sun is rising. There's weird dragonflies that are the size of horses flying around me. But it's a peaceful farmer.
I guess the beauty of this game is that both can be true based on your experiences of trying to get to Gritgate.
Yeah, the track takes a more sinister tone when you're being chased by a crocodile.
Fair, fair. Yeah, really, whatever you want that weird grunting noise to be could be more or less hostile.
Hmm. But this is the music that, well, one of many tracks that greets you as you're running around the surface of this game, which the surface is big. Maybe we'll talk about the caves being big in a minute, or possibly on the next episode. But this is where you're running through procedurally generated ruins, layers to legendary creatures. You're getting lost through these dense and claustrophobic jungles. You're going through these areas that are filled with like rusted vines that will reach out and grab and rust your equipment. But eventually, against all odds, you will make it to Gritgate, and you'll delve a whopping 3 levels deep, which is nothing in this game, as we'll come to see, to get to the headquarters of the Barathrumites, which similarly, I feel like a lot of NPCs in this game have a very ambivalent attitude towards you. As you walk up, you are greeted by something akin to like a McDonald's like voice transmitter, the communications panel. That you go up to it and it says a voice transmitting through the panel, "Begone, Wayfarer, this is no place for you." And you say, wait, my name is Listener. I bring a message from Argive of Joppa. And then a slot opens from the center of the door and a metal tray slides out. After which you hand over your disc with the signal that Argive has encoded on there. And the message says, "The disk is encoded with an important signal. To discuss it further, we must admit you to our order. Unfortunately, we require more than a willing spirit. You will need to prove your worth, that you might not waste our time and efforts. Travel to the great cavern Golgotha to the north. Within its halls, you will find a cache of dysfunctional way droids. Recover one, repair it, and return here. If we are satisfied with your work, you will be admitted as an apprentice. Otherwise, you will be turned away. Do you accept this arrangement?"
This is my typical experience at the drive-through pharmacy. Every time, like, yo, come on, I'm just here for a script. It's pretty typical stuff. Then they send me to go collect, some kind of AI from a cave somewhere. Love a good quest. As someone who, again, very limited experience with this game. Hey, that sounds engaging. That sounds interesting. If I was playing a tabletop game and this was the quest I was given, I would be intrigued. And excited to, kind of building the excitement of gaining entry, eventually gaining entry into this, the secretive order or what have you. So like typically how many hours just on average, would one expect to be into the game at this point?
That's up to you.
It's up to you. Very good.
100%, that's up to you. And that is true throughout Caves of Qud.
Yeah, and I think
I believe it.
In the vein of other massive open world games like The Witcher 3, Skyrim, to some extent Baldur's Gate, it's very easy to get, like, we're not covering any of the side quests in this thing, and there's a lot of them. Like, just in the little first third of the overworld map that you're trundling around in just to get to the Gritgate area, there's a handful of very interesting and very unique kind of side quests that can take like dozens of hours to do. And you'd be like, "Oh, but wait, what's this thing over there?" And like getting very easily distracted by stuff. Like there's this deceptive amount of stuff in here that the first time that I was playing it, I was like, where is everything? It feels so like barren and empty. But the more that you kind of just go and explore and just kind of get distracted by stuff, you'll see it kind of unfurls and ahead of you, and you're just like, wait, what was I supposed to be doing again?
Well, like every little village also has the same starting quest to go to the Six Silt Desert City.
Six
So,
days stilt.
yeah, that's the one. So, like, there are other hooks to do stuff. Like,
Mhm.
I'll give you in the like 5-ish hours I've played so far. I kind of had assumed that was the main, the hook into the main quest because it appears in multiple villages. So I figured that there's something there that is important to world story.
There is something
And there probably is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's not enough time in this podcast to get into all of that, but maybe in part 9 we'll get to the Argent Fathers and all of the librarian of the 6 days stilt being a different character every time. But anyway, yeah, your adventure has begun and lots of stuff to like to go through. And so our next quest here, going to the dungeon fortress of Golgotha. I don't know why I keep saying Golgotha. It's Golgotha, I think. But there's no hard and fast rules about pronunciation here, I guess. I think this is the task that I have given my co-host 2 weeks to complete. If in 2 weeks you can maybe at least get to even this point, you'll be ahead of the curve of a good chunk of other folks, at least according to what the Caves of Qud subreddit has instructed me to do. So they gave me a communications panel to send my co-hosts on this death-defying quest to go to where our next track is taking us.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? And also, I guess I kind of smiled at the fact that like, oh, you have to go and rescue this droid from this dungeon that we'll be encountering next. There's a lot of droids at this place already. How many adventurers died bringing all these damn droids to Gritgate that haven't been accepted to the order? But anyway,
I never made that connection. That's actually amazing.
I'm not sure. So Golgotha is a like literal thing, though. Golgotha is where Jesus was crucified.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
there is a correct pronunciation for it.
Maybe one of the few words that does have like a probably you pronounce it this way.
Yeah.
This game also has a interesting amount of like biblical Aramaic and like Sumerian references in it that are not unimportant. Like you could have just picked any word to throw in there, but I think there's some things that we'll be encountering later on that it's like, oh yeah, you could have called it anything, but calling it that, there's a specific reason for it. So
the Golgotha is the Aramaic name for the place of the skull. I feel like there's probably some significance to that.
Yeah, as we'll find out with this track. Let's jump into it. Let's get waist deep in some wastewater. Our next track here is, I'm gonna say Golgotha or whatever it is.
It's different every
It's
time.
the place of the skull.
Yeah, it is. It is a roguelike pronunciation. Golgotha. God.
Golgotha. Our next track.
We're listening to the Nightmare Fuel soundtrack that is Golgotha from Caves of Qud. This is maybe your first proper capital D dungeon in this game, which is still only about 5 floors deep, but is just, quite the thematic, goopy, what do I have written down in my notes here? What if Factorio was a horror game in a Dark Souls poison swamp biome? Is kind of the vibe that I got from this.
Well, I'm sold. What a deal. And it occurs to me that hey, in a genre where sometimes the graphics, traditional roguelike, are so abstract and in some ways limited, it's all the more important to have an evocative soundtrack and an atmospheric suite of sounds, a soundscape to further sort of inform and buttress what information is being conveyed visually. You can convey so much from audibly, and I can only imagine what a wild journey it must have been for the composer to source all of these wonderful robot and bubbling acid swamp sound effects.
Well, notably about Golgotha is conveyor belts. This is for a turn-based game. There are conveyor belts that, as you move, will move you extra spaces. Which, that doesn't sound so bad. Oh, what? There's what did you say that there are giant flamethrower vents and acid vents and things that shoot electricity out of them. Not to mention like slimes and quillpedes and giant beetles, electric snails, all sorts of great stuff in effectively what I believe canonically this place is supposed to be a garbage processing center of sorts, to which you are tasked with jumping down a garbage chute, braving all of these waste processing mechanisms and getting dumped into the cloaca. A great name for a garbage dump, where you depending on your reputation with the mollusks faction, you could be encountering a friendly or hostile giant mollusk named Slog of the Cloaca, who inhabits down here. And there's a bunch of scrapped way droids that you can pick up and be like, okay, get me the hell out of here. And you can take the central elevator back up to the surface as fast as you possibly can get out of there before contracting one of the many fun diseases in this game that will cause the tongue to rot out of your mouth. Yeah, I think this one was kind of a turning point for me in the game, where before this, in Aaron and I did a very lengthy tutorial series on going very excruciatingly in depth on what are all of these UI elements? How does this game work on like a fundamental level, which was super great. I'll link to it in the show notes. We didn't get anywhere close to this in terms of progression. And that was over the course of like 8 hours or so. This is the point where I felt like, whoa, okay, the game is like really a lot deeper than I thought it was. And in this case, like only 5 levels deep, there's so much atmosphere and so much uniqueness to this opening up that really kind of sets the stage for what's to come. Of like, this is not a standard traditional roguelike in any sense. This is like something that presents itself as a traditional roguelike in terms of interface and interactability, but its scope and scale and uniqueness and variety is just so beyond the pale that it is not just jumping in through a fantasy D&D reskin and having to worry about your hunger levels and starving to death. I'm having to worry about my tongue rotting out of my throat.
Yeah, you don't really realize how much the game is actually holding your hand until you get to Golgotha. It takes the guardrails off. It sort of
Yes.
finally takes the guardrails off. It takes the Rockley the like bags off the legs and is like, okay, bud.
That's concerning for me playing, being like, I'm like dying so quickly. Like, hey man, you're still playing with the gutter guards on.
Yeah.
Well, if you have lots of collected honey in your water skins or yuckweed stems for disease prevention, or if you've prepared recipes, or if you have any kind of recipes that you've learned from various villages or through creatures, you can get things to help kind of prevent the awful effects of stepping into black ooze or being attacked by sewage eels or spitting slugs. And you can keep your tongue nice and safe in your mouth. It can regrow back. Don't worry about it. Uh, but yeah, this is kind of like the first real test of the game for many players of like, can you get this far? Can you get to the Barathrumites? Can you get to this awful garbage dump? And can you get out and come back? And so I think this is where it kind of leads us into our next track here, and really kind of like, oh, thank God we've gone through the nightmare fuel of all these icky caves and conveyor belts. We've returned to Gritgate. We returned to Gritgate with our way droid, and we have been accepted into the order. So up next, we're gonna play the next piece in our soundtrack called Stoic Porridge from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. You're listening to the relatively peaceful and calming soundtrack of Stoic Porridge from Caves of Qud. This is the music that plays when you've reached and been accepted to the Order of Gritgate and the Barathrumites.
So this plays in Gritgate instead of whatever the previous track was.
Well, the previous one was the Nightmare Garbage Dump.
No, I mean, but you had been in Gritgate before by this point, right?
Yeah, technically, I guess this does play when you first arrive, but this is also like a more comforting. Well, yeah, this felt
it
better
plays
to
as
put
soon as you
here.
enter the screen. So even if you're outside of Gritgate, you'll hear this track.
So you know that you've done good because it's not foreboding.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no conveyor belt inserter sounds going on. Yeah, and this feels like such a cozy respite compared to what you had just gone through, particularly because this feels like your main like starting base for a good chunk of the game, at least for maybe like the first half. You come back and you slap the way droid into the slot, and you're beckoned to come through the force field and you are greeted by Otho, who says, "Welcome to Gritgate. I am Otho, Barathrum's steward. I apologize for the manner of our introduction, but we must take precaution. Qud is a very unforgiving place." And you are rewarded with some quest goodies, like, hey, take some of this stuff. And he wants to discuss the signal that you've captured earlier with Argive. And he says the signal is a repeat transmission being broadcast from an unknown source. One of our tankers, Q Girl, discovered it while rigging a long wave detector. Unfortunately, it's encrypted, and we do not have the means here to decrypt it. You may be of some help in this manner, however. We've long known the location of a fully functioning Baetyl within the bowels of the great hall Bethesda Susa. The mechanimists have consecrated the site around it and built a temple there. Q-Girl claims to have developed a means to decrypt the signal, but she needs the computing power of the Baetyl. If you can infiltrate the mechanimist compound, you may be able to engage the Baetyl and decode the signal. And your player character has a very apt response of, "Baetyl? What?" Question mark. And Otho goes on to say, they are antique stones located in certain places deep within the caverns of Qud. We believe they are some sort of hyper-advanced machine built by the Eaters, the capital E. This is the civilization long dead as you've arrived here, that all the previous sultans have reigned over. But I think this is maybe our first actual introduction to them. Otho goes on to say, often one claims to possess a sentience of its own, these Baetyls. However, most of them have gone haywire in the eons since their creation. It is rare indeed to discover one whose circuitry is wholly uncorroded. The mechanimists worship this one as an idol, and they will protect it at all costs. You will need to find a way through their host to the Baetyl itself. Do you believe you can accomplish this task? And of course you say yes, and then he says, "Good, apprentice. Speak to Q-Girl in the workshop. She'll encode her instructions for the Baetyl onto a copy of the disk." There's one more thing. The Baetyl is located beneath the ancient cryobarriers of the Eaters. Time has worked to erode the mechanisms that contain their cryogenic mist. That freezing vapor billows out of the chambers freely now, cooling the entire cavern. You'll want to procure some warm clothing to protect yourself. The spoils of the mechanimists are yours to keep. Remember, apprentice Barathrum will look kindly upon your service.
Bethesda Susa.
Yes. The cryo dungeon of Bethesda Susa. You're given ample warning that, hey, you've gone through the garbage dump dungeon. How about the ice dungeon that awaits you next? I kind of wish Otho would have given us a little more heads up about some of the monsters that inhabit Bethesda Susa. But really, there's only so much that can prepare you in the world of Qud for what sort of horrific things await you. But yeah,
luckily we have Scott and Big Simple to give us those warnings instead.
You want me? I should just give you the answers. Then I'll just like hand over the keys. Yeah. I mean,
no.
I there are ways to cheese just about every dungeon, and shortchange them, and I have done that. And there are definitely ways to make things easier on yourself. And I think Bethesda Susa is maybe the first dungeon that teaches you hard lessons in that regard, that if you do not consider all of your resources, not just the physical ones, then you are going to have a hard time, bud. And it definitely slaps your hand a little bit. Maybe more so than Golgotha. I actually consider Bethesda Susa in IMO is maybe the hardest dungeon in the game.
Yeah, I think I would co-sign on that as well, just because like as you progress, and we'll probably talk more about this in our follow-up episode on like the specific gameplay mechanics and like the design of like how you're supposed to use all these tools at your disposal. But this is one that really kind of makes like it's that standard RPG trope of like, I'm just gonna hold on to all of my potions and never use them, and by the end you're like, oh well, actually like I beat the final boss without having to use all of them. This was like the first time like, oh wow, I'm actually having to use everything in my disposal to get through here. But yeah, so we have our signal on this disk, and it's encrypted, but we need the computing power of a Baetyl, Baetyl, to decrypt it. And these, if you've encountered them on your weird, ramblings throughout the Qud ecosystem thus far, they look like almost kind of like Chihuly glass sculptures that are like somewhat sentient and say weird things like "Foolish petty mortal, bring me 6 items of beef jerky, and I will reward you with great physical prowess," or something nebulous. In all caps, of course. There are some that are just like sparking out of control and just like not really fully there. But they definitely seem like there's some sort of intelligence behind them. To which one of the Barathrumites is willing to send you on a death quest to go out and do it. One thing that we're not covering here specifically are the Mechanimists, which is maybe like a whole other 25-minute topic in and of itself. But this is a faction in the game that resides at the 6-day stilt up in the very top left of the world map. And they are a group of people that worship technology.
You can say cult.
Yeah, they're a cult. There's lots of cults in this game.
You can say it. Yeah.
They're a cult that worships technology, and if you are if you follow Aaron and I's tutorial video, you can get that reputation up to become accepted.
You could join.
Yeah, you can join the Mechanimists and make your life in Bethesda Susa much easier at the end of it. But I think like one thing that kind of stood out to me was like, oh, they worship technology. This might be why they worship technology, because there's still one fully functioning Chihuly glass computer that exists here. So maybe there's a reason. But yeah, let's jump into it. Your next quest is going to the north, close to the northern mountains of Qud, to find the frozen cryo temple of Bethesda Susa, which leads us into our next track on the soundtrack here, Lazarus. You're listening to Lazarus from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. The music that greets you as you enter the frozen cryo barrios of Bethesda Susa, and frozen with good cause, I think. This is a dungeon that you arrive on the surface, and there are these giant cragmensch trolls who hurl boulders at you. And the first time I encountered them, like, oh my god, these guys are invincible. And then by the time that I came back to them later in the game, like, oh, okay, now I know how to totally deal with these dudes. But Yeah, they do not want you in here. And you descend this dungeon to first the ruined wharf, which has kind of a river flowing through it, but you get through there to the three levels of the healing pools. And these are areas filled with this healing convalescence fluid, where you have to fight three mega troll bosses one after the other. Luckily, only one per floor, but the first one, where I think this is kind of where the game, and yeah, maybe we'll talk more about this in our next episode. If you're playing on permadeath mode, this is where you're in for a rude introduction. If you are not extremely well prepared, because you are met first with Jotun, who parts limbs, who throws axes from almost across most of the screen at you. But there's, in this game, there's plenty of mental, physical mutations or cybernetics that at this point you could have come across to help deal with flying projectiles. But these are some beefy trolls. These are also not invincible characters. These are things that you can attack with love injectors to get them on your side. Just let them hand you over their keys to the next stage. So in traditional immersive sim fashion, there's many ways to do this, but these are typically big, wide open combat arenas, where if you look in the upper left of your screen, you'll notice the temperature is going down pretty quickly, but from like 7 degrees to -2 to -11. I think this is Celsius, but
it's temperature.
It's units.
It's negative temperature.
Just as long as it's not negative Kelvin, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
The second,
No promises.
The second troll is Fjorn Kosif, who knits the icy lattice and carries the key to the next area. And this guy, I think, is a little easier to deal with, but or at least for me, because I had ranged weapons at the time. But the last one is Hagabah, who piles the umbral path. And you'll be walking around on this stage thinking, well, like, I know that there's a third troll here, but oh, there he is. He's invisible.
Oh, good.
And one of the things that I was kind of glad to have spoiled for me before going into this area, and there are some context clues here. Like, you'll see the like puddles of convalescence like walking towards you, which maybe is kind of a big hint. But if you were just like, I wonder what that is, and then your head is split in twain on permadeath mode, that can be a little bit of a rude awakening. But yeah, I think
there's also another big hint if you're like really keenly paying attention to the interface. I won't say more than that.
It's nothing a good stun gas grenade can't deal with, that's for sure. But now you've dealt with your trolls, and you're heading into the abandoned ward, which feels very much kind of like a medical facility that's been overrun by electric snails and phase spiders. And this is where the temperature starts getting down pretty low. And if you are susceptible to freezing, you're gonna be wanting to don some ape fur, but just not wearing it around any apes that you want to maintain good faction reputation with. You'll dive down through. This is a pretty lengthy dungeon also. We've only just covered the first few floors, but this goes down through about 10 dungeon floors or so of fighting all these frozen monsters of sorts, possibly encountering a neutral NPC called the Alchemist, who kind of carries like one of every, like a little drop of every substance in the game, or at least most of them, including, but not limited to, neutron flux, and I believe cloning draft. Cloning draft.
I think it's draft.
It's spelled drought. Which, yeah, for later game stuff can become quite valuable. But you'll descend into cybernetics wards, where if you are a cybernetic character, here's some areas for you to install some cybernetics. It's kind of a lengthy process to get to. There's easier ones, but There's a lot of good environmental storytelling here of, there's medical bays, there's cybernetic wards, there's big healing pools. Like, what on earth was going on here in the before times? Like, this is a super ancient area. You'll descend further to an area that is the titular cryobarrios that houses cryogenic like I'm picturing like those cryogenic prisons that they have from that one Sylvester Stallone movie whose name escapes me, but I'm sure Andrew was able to pick up on in 2 seconds.
Demolition Man?
There you
Demolition
go.
Man.
This
What was the 3 shells for?
in classic Demolition Man fashion, you're walking through frozen prisons housing a big rhino monster, a some kind of plant that possibly had good reason to be locked away, and I believe this is not a clone, but the titular
Qud.
Well,
Mr.
yeah,
Qud
the
himself.
Qud.
yeah,
John Qud.
he may as well be John
Sure.
Qud. It is Saad Amus, the Sky Bear, who has a jetpack and a ceremonial vibro dagger.
Kopesh?
Kopesh? Yeah, that seems like
Kopesh.
a good pronunciation.
Sure, the part axe, part sword Egyptian weapon, of course,
Oh,
famously wielded by jetpack flying bears.
John Qud.
John
But
Qud.
so-
John Qud himself, his
and
iconic weapon.
this Sky Bear, who I believe dates back to the time of the ancient sultanate, the Eaters, possibly an Eater himself, is locked away in this cryo prison. But this wouldn't be fun if it was just a bunch of possibly extremely hostile creatures locked away in a cryo prison. You're gonna need a cannibal carrying a fully operational missile launcher walking around here, who, if you aggro him and that missile launcher goes astray, can start unlocking these monsters to start chasing you around.
Oh, that's fun. That's good design.
And
That's awesome.
and a little flavor text about Saad Amus, the Sky Bear, champion of Saloum. There's a way that you can look at like deep lore and history about certain unique items in this game. And I won't go into extreme depth about it, but there's a story that you can look up on his jetpack that the game presents in, I don't know if this is how the Eaters used to talk, but like Old English, like like actual like written like ye olde with an e English, that basically instructs that this hero of the before times fought some extra dimensional entity and locked it away. And this is the way that we're going to remember him, by, I guess, ironically locking him away in a frozen cryo mist, maybe to be broken out in case of emergency. But yeah, this
I thought you were going to say you locked him away in the jetpack and was like using him for fuel or something.
Yeah, they sure did
Why is
lock
this-
him away with all of his tools and weapons. That
Why-
was a choice.
Why is this flavor text on his jetpack?
was
Was the jetpack instrumental in the locking in some way?
it's not listed on his dagger, which is also interesting. I don't know if the jetpack was, if that was
The
instrumental.
jetpack is, I think, iconic of them. Like, other people might have a vibrating Kopesh, but not everyone has a flume, a jetpack.
I see.
In much the same way. And I mean, in a kind of like, I'm sure people will resent me for saying this, but like in a kind of a Dark Soulsian sense, like you do pick up lore and flavor from the description of items. So it's going to be the iconic item of that character rather than the sort of the generic accessories.
Right. So this is the jetpack of the bear.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And I believe even if you find another flume flyer in the world, it's still like a pretender of Saad's
Yeah.
flume flyer.
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, if you make it past the juicing cannibal with his missile launcher, and you are not immediately dispatched by an unfrozen champion of the Eaters, you arrive to welcome to the Rock. You arrive to the Temple of the Rock at the very bottom of Bethesda.
All right, now we're talking.
And, if you didn't catch one of those flame bursts and you're not a corpse from Golgotha, you'll arrive here, and if you're friendly with the Mechanimus, a nice reprieve. You come into this basically a holy temple of theirs with armed guards as far as the eye can see, all sorts of dancing, worshiping pilgrims, guard dogs, and at the center of which is a fully functioning Chihuly glass computer that you can insert your data disk into to finally decode this signal. And that's about all that Bethesda Susa has in store for us. Well, at least for the main story quest, many of these dungeons have extra stuff beneath them should you feel motivated to go digging. Many of which are kind of, well, the plagues of the gyre that we talked about before, one of which are the Girsh Nephilim, who are, I think a good way to describe it is kind of like these horrific giant kaiju mother brain style monstrosities that reside deep within the earth of Qud. And beneath Bethesda Susa, of which lies one of them. And so should you feel motivated to come back to this dungeon later and be like, you know what, I want to go and beat up on this mega beast, you can go digging down through here some extra depth to go and beat them up with some.
We're really going very spoiler heavy. I'm surprised.
Well, I think like that it might also kind of tie in with the big final capital B battle later on, but you know there's some other stuff. But yeah,
or may not. Yeah, I likened them to the angels from Neon Genesis. I think that they're almost directly inspired in some ways.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way.
They feel very almost too appropriately. I don't know. I don't like to assume, because I'm always wrong, but they do feel very much like the angels from Neon Genesis.
You can also get good reputation with them and become allies and loved by them as well. So they're
just like in the anime. Yep.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
So you decode the signal. You finally come back to Gritgate and you talk to Otho, who says Barathrum needs you for an undertaking of great importance. You've decoded the signal. You must next journey to Omen Porch, far to the north. There the spindle stretches from earth to sky. Unfortunately, a troublesome merchant from the consortium of Phyta has relocated there and declared itself Earl of Omen Porch. We need you to broker a deal so that we may lease control of the spindle. Failing that, you'll need to dispose of the self-appointed Earl. Be careful on your approach to Omen Porch, journey friend. So far east into the reaches of Qud, the Putus Templar lie in wait. And you ask for more details. The Putus Templar, or the Sons and Daughters, as they call themselves, are an order of knights who claim descendancy from the Eaters, the ancient folk who wrought the chrome halls of Qud. Beware them, for while they despise all mutants, they harbor a special malice for Barathrum. Take care that you do not find yourself inside one of their slave pens. And so this is kind of our first introduction. If you haven't encountered them already, some of these beefy enemies they kind of look like holy crusaders, as it were, of the Putus Templar. But we move onward to our next track, titled Onward, as we head northeast to the top center of our world map of Qud, to the Omen Porch, and to the village town nearby of Ezra. You're listening to the cozy village tunes of Ezra from the soundtrack titled Onward in Caves of Qud. And this is a blink and you miss it kind of village that's just one screen to the left of our main story quest item here. But this is a very important village because it has just an incredible amount of like writing drip to it, and some like, well, we'll come back here in a minute also for another story quest thing, but this has some of my favorite NPCs in the game to it, where one is Mayor Hadass, who is a sentient tree who is thousands of years old, who you can talk to.
He's got my vote.
He doesn't need your vote.
And Mayor Hadass has this really this was one of the times where I had to stop and just really kind of take in the writing. And I've scrubbed a lot of stuff out of this section because there's just so much that I wanted to incorporate, but I just couldn't for time purposes. But Mayor Hadass probably has my favorite writing in the game, where you talk to him and he talks about Ezra and saying, Ezra is more than tree old, it's stone old. Seedlings have lived here since our roots dreamed of joggling their fingers at the salt sky. They ate the earth and belched freight at the stars, and this place was their stomach. Later, as the star tree died and they buried their dead under its roots, this was their funerary place. Now, we nurse electric milk from the old and aching temple to turn our wheels and grind our seeds and grains. Now we are they. There's much more stuff that Mayor Hadass says, and I just wanted to incorporate like every little thing, but that was the best one that I like from them. Other notable NPCs here include Six Shrew, who is another sentient plant with maybe a little bit more of an edge, where you walk up to say, you know, hey, how's it going? I'd like to trade some stuff. And they greet you with, oh joy, another meat being. Please tell me you're here to buy something. And you're like, well, hey, what's your attitude here, buddy? Oh, I'm fine. I simply adore being assigned to the stinking backwater Musa Grove after decades of service, unceremoniously dumped in an office next to a fleshy tinker who works day and night, making all manner of racket through the thinnest, most conductive walls ever crafted. What is it you humans say? Living the dream? Yes, I am living the dream.
He is a tree as well?
Six Shrew? Yes, I believe.
Yeah, what gave it away?
It could have been a robot.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a fair point. Yeah, you know, well, retail stuff, you know, that's I can relate to that. I can understand that. And I do want to mention real quick with regards to the music. I'm of course, you know, loving the dungeon synth sound to it, and which is it feels like it's getting more pronounced as we go on with the soundtrack. Love them synthesizers.
Yeah, this definitely feels like another kind of cozy refresher from a previous Nightmare dungeon, which I think we'll be flipping back and forth between. Well, actually, no, I'm looking through the soundtrack list. Yeah, there's some good cozy ones coming up, and some ones that might invoke extreme fear and terror. Some other notable NPCs here are Yila Hodge, who is the village tinker and a part of the Daughters of Exile faction. And you ask for more detail. Daughters of Exile, and she says, we're tinker nuns. We see the world sees fit to call us by that, my sisters and me. Do you know the story told of Rebecca the Exile? She was a teacher to Resheph, but he excommunicated her from the Sultanate and banished her from the realm. To know her, I've chosen a life of unbelonging. And among my sisters, I have the honor of permanent residence by her gravesite. I'll tell you this, traveler. The shape of a society is visible only from the outside, and there is peace beyond a boundary. Which, love it. Like, this is where I think the writing in Qud is really flexing its double muscles and triple jointed features here. You'll walk over past Zotham the Penitent, who is a former grave robber, who says, Rebecca was a physician and advisor to Resheph until she lost his favor. When, after years of exile, she lost her voice and her life, she was buried here, an outsider unfit to be interned with the honored dead. So she rests here. I believe her proximity will help me find my credo. And again, I'm skipping over huge swaths of side quests, one of which Zotham the Penitent tells you about various inhabitants of this upcoming mega dungeon that we'll be talking about. But right here is a very unassuming headstone that just says, "Here lies Rebecca, succumbed to glot rot," with 6 symbols underneath it. Which at this time you're like, okay. As you are gathering details about the Sultanate and its history, you're gathering details about Resheph as well, and learning about Resheph's relationship with this healer Rebecca, and how they have interacted. And you've finally come across her gravesite, and it feels like a very hallowed and humble kind of area, something that possibly of importance later. There's just a few little flowers and a little star apple tree right next to it, but rather unassuming otherwise. But coming back to our main story quest, you go one screen to the right back to Omen Porch, and you meet with another yet sentient plant named Asphodel, the Earl of Omen Porch. And Asphodel greets you, says, "Welcome to Omen Porch, traveler. Enjoy your visit to my earldom. Feast your eyes upon my tall and glorious spindle. Take in the scent of roasted musa." And this is like a big ornate courtyard with one big gate that you examine. It says the Gate of Death, and another big gate that says the Gate of Life. And there's all these plants hanging out, just kind of mulling about. And this area is huge. Like this is normally these dungeons that we've looked at so far are just one screen size. This is 9 screens of size. It is quite big. And so you come to this plant. You say, "I'd like to lease control of your spindle, kind plant." And Asphodel replies, "Lease control of my spindle, you say? Well, that's a colossal request. There's no simple price I can assign to such a thing. Were I to grant such a request, you would owe me a great debt, you and several of your allies. I will convene a council, the first council of Omen Porch. Send word to 4 of your allied factions. Have them send delegates. Together, perhaps, you can appease me." And I kind of like the audacity of this stupid plant saying, like, I feel like there's really nothing stopping you from just like grabbing it by its neck and just being like, I'm just taking it. I feel like this plant is maybe like the least threatening guard to this massive ancient site that you've come across. But
Have you tried it?
I have not tried it, but I'm guessing things do not go well.
I mean, you don't know how dangerous a plant can be until you fight them.
You got to stock up on those defoliant grenades.
That's what I always say. As a vegan, that's what I always say.
Stock up on them defoliant grenades?
Defoliant.
Sorry, what?
All right.
There's a reason why there's flamethrowers in this game. But
to deal with the plant mares. All right.
Yep. This is where throughout your travels so far, you've been gaining reputation with some factions, decreasing it with others. And I feel like at this point, maybe by accident, you may have already just created allyships with various factions of sorts. So you convene the council, and some of them send NPCs from their village. Some send diplomacy droids, which I thought was a great touch, to this round table council that happens here. And you choose how you appease this sentient plant who, quote, owns the spindle. And your options are to share the burden across all allies, which decreases your reputation by 50 points with each faction that shows up. You can share them between 2 of them, so you just decrease it by 100. You can spare one faction all obligation by betraying a second faction and selling their secrets to Asphodel. And so you lose 800 reputation with the betrayed faction, and you gain 200 with the spared, and you get a faction-specific heirloom, which is nice. Or you can invoke the Chaos Spiel, which
Chaos spiel. Gotta give the chaos
Woo!
spiel. And just everyone loves a good chaos
Spiel.
spiel.
Absolutely.
and the description or the result from this just says question marks, and it says
Love that.
plus 300 reputation with highly entropic beings, which maybe there might be a reason why you might want that coming up. And so you convene the council. You say, okay, yes, we are here to gain control, and you spend your reputation points, and Asphodel is satisfied. You then come back to Gritgate. You tell Otho, I've done it. I've secured the spindle for Barathrum. And Otho says, this is sterling news, journey friend. I'll go inform Barathrum straight away, who to this point has just been kind of locked away in his study downstairs the whole time. You haven't seen him yet. And this is when the screen shakes and a pop-up says the whole compound rumbles around you. The walls creak. Loose objects skid about, and dust is stirred up in iridescent clouds. Otho yells, listener, get back here, in bright yellow text. And then this is where it's going to lead us into our next track, Imminent II, from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. You're listening to Imminent II by our composer Craig Hamilton for the Caves of Qud soundtrack. The screen is shaking. Otho's in a panic. He says, I have grave thoughts, listener. Listen to me now. Take this key card. Go to Ereshkigal's room and... Oh, that's the sentient mainframe. It's what she prefers to be called. Go to her room. Access Ereshkigal and scan the shale surrounding the Enclave for anomalies. I've asked her to ready her sensors. Update me with what you learn. You may use the intercom in the northeast corner of Ereshkigal's room to deliver your update. Go quickly. I'd soon be disabused by my fears. You run through the Gritgate compound to the server room up at the top. You interface with this sentient mainframe who operates in the thin world, as she calls it, and with us living in the thick world, in her view. You're scanning the area for an incoming invasion by the Putus Templar. And Otho, you come back to report to Otho, and he says, as I feared, listener, Gritgate is being assailed. The Putus Templar must have followed you back from Omen Porch. Let's use this precious little time we have before they arrive to prepare our defenses. And this is a little miniature tower defense, as it were, where you will have little zones where the roof will collapse in will come special operations forces from the Putus Templar to come and attack you and the Barathrumites in your central hub. They're attacking your compound, but It's probably worth talking a little bit about the Putus Templar themselves, who up until this point have maybe been a little mysterious. Um, there's a lot of procedurally generated books in this game. There's some that are not. There are many that are written by like actual contributors to this game, and in the Murmur's Prayer by author Kalen Sandshell, writes that they they have a dedication to a family tree as tall and unbranching as Qud's spindle. There is a volume, Frivolous Lives Volume 1 claims that the Sons of Man operate a stronghold at Oyudin, and that they have troubled Qud for over 845 years. Actually, coming back to the Murmur's Prayer, if you hover over one of the Templar, the description of them begins with the following: oiled and brushed male hangs across their crooked spine and salient jaw. The color too was sucked out of their irises by their tangled lineage, and their wet, rosy lips catch the light and toss it back across a sharp sneer. There's another book From Entropy to Hierarchy, written by Q Girl, says that the Templar, on the other hand, are enactors of extremely ordered violence. Their brutality has been codified into orthodoxy. Their ideological structures are anti-entropic, but destructive and abhorrent. They seek to construct a rigidly hierarchical society with a slave caste on the bottom rung. Through rituals like the baptism in the blood of the reclaimed, they indoctrinate the privileged among their subjects. The rest of us are met only with force. And this is where the force comes to fruition, because you are running around using the mainframe computer to scan for the enemies. You're setting up force field barriers within the Gritgate compound to kind of funnel the enemies. We just did a previous episode just to this was Orcs Must Die Death Trap, a maze building tower defense shooter game. It's good that we have a little bit of maze defense, tower defense shooting in here in a traditional roguelike game. So you have to balance power, you have to do all that stuff, and that's going to lead us into our next track here for Attack on Gritgate. You are listening to The Attack on Gritgate from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. This, I think, is an amazing battle theme of, like, it just... I knew what I was getting into coming into this, but just hearing, like, the sounds and, like, the pressure of the invasion and just, like, how, like, this just feels like an appropriate level of, like, being overwhelmed with sound and, like, an actual war drum party banging down the doors in, like... I don't know, like a Lord of the Rings style castle siege of sorts. And I just feel like I was playing on my Steam Deck on the couch and my heart rate was racing, where I'm like, oh my god, like.
So what's the context for this actually, like, starting? Is there, like, you hit a dialogue tree and then suddenly this just goes?
So the previous track is when you're preparing for the battle, and this is the actual battle.
So, like, at some point you'll be like, we're ready for the battle, and then
yeah, you have
a
a
guy
certain
busts through
amount
the
of
ceiling. this-
time or basically like turns to set up, and then after a certain amount of time has passed, then the actual invasion starts unprompted, and then
But
then
you'll know it's happening by the extremely aggressive music that starts playing.
that and the explosions. Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
And the explosions. Yeah, I love the that kind of blown out sound.
Right, yeah.
It's very visceral, and of course, kind of evokes and mimics said explosions.
Yeah. And this is where like permadeath for your player character is one thing. This is where you have permadeath for NPCs as well. It is not guaranteed that and a lot of the NPCs in Gritgate here sell good stuff. Like they sell data discs that you can learn new crafting recipes for. They sell armaments. They sell potions and tonics and things. And they can all be killed, and you can not have access to that anymore through this invasion. And it is a kind of a big deal of like, oh my God, I got to keep this guy alive to make sure I can like buy these data discs later. Or if you have some cloning draft, you can get creative. Anyway, you can power up some security robots, some turrets, some force field barriers. There's lots of chromelings that you can also power. Like you are given a power budget that you can use to kind of power up all these robots and things, stationary turrets and such. And you are fighting off an invasion of the Putus Templar to keep your science bears alive through this attack. And when all is said and done, and you repel the invasion, Otho, if he's still alive, I wonder who actually gives you this dialogue tree if he's dead, or if he's just hiding in a corner somewhere. He says, "Journey friend, you have my deepest gratitude. Few listeners could have defended Gritgate so deftly. Now give me some time to assess our losses and consult with Barathrum." And he'll give you kind of like a almost like a score sheet readout of like, you did great or you did bad, because like all the library books got knocked over and stuff. He goes on to say,
worth noting that no matter how badly this goes, you can progress the storyline. There are some guard railings, some safeguards built into the game to ensure that the storyline is not completely derailed.
It doesn't have the Morrowind style, the thread of prophecy has been severed. You should just restart.
Yeah, no.
Well,
maybe that's they should change that. Maybe, I don't know. I'm of two minds. Worth noting, I mean, if you want to question how long into the game this is, a minimum of I think 6 to 8 hours.
Okay,
I think a minimum.
You put work in at this point.
Yeah, you've put genuine time and effort and hours into this. And if you're playing it if you're taking it seriously, it's probably 6 to 8 hours. Could even be more than that, depending on how safe you want to be about things. And so, like, you really don't want to have to just end up in a situation where like a very precious NPC dies. It already sucks that like you can lose like Spare Fusile or one of the other like notable NPCs here that will sell you good stuff. So the fact that there are safeguards there is actually really kind of the game.
Yeah, I feel like that's true in many, or in all rogue-like things. The longer the game goes, the less fun dying becomes. Like dying is fun unless you're 9 hours into the game and you're like, okay, I really want to.
I'm not having fun anymore.
Yeah. First, you're for an hour in and you die, you're like, oh, rats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Otho
24 hours in, oh, rats.
Yeah.
Well, you just do another 24-hour daily challenge run.
Daily challenge run, yeah.
Otho goes on to say, furthermore, I've spoke with Barathrum. He praised your handling of the Earl of Amonporch, and he thanks you for the bravery you exhibited in defending Gritgate. The attack today reminds us far too long we have put our faith in the isolation of our guild and the preoccupations of the Putus Templar. The looming threat of another attack impels Barathrum to accelerate his plans, and with them, your position in our guild. And you are given another rank level. You level up. You get to choose more stuff. You ascend the ranks within the Barathrumites guild, and crucially, you go and are able to meet the leader of the Barathrumites next, and learn what is in store for us on the next phase of our journey here, as we queue up our next track here for Barathrum's Study from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. You're listening to the studious electric sounds of Barathrum's Study. And this is where we meet the, should be noted, very old leader of the Barathrumites, Barathrum himself. And this is laying out I think, the point of this game here when you talk with Barathrum the Old. You've decoded the signal, you've decrypted it, and he studied it. And he says, the signal is a beacon of welcoming, and it originates from the top of the spindle. The beacon confirmed my hypothesis. The spindle is an elevator, engineered by the
space
eaters,
elevator, right?
Engineered by the eaters to convey freight to and from the vault of heaven. You see, nestling in the earliest aurora of our past, the eaters of the earth were joined by a great coven of beings that spanned the firmament, but the eaters succumbed to some terrible temptation, and an injunction was placed on our world. Since then, the stars were silent to us, and our world was left to molder and decay, but something changed. The signal affirms that an entity roosts atop the spindle and invites us to join it. Dare I say, is the injunction at an end? It's too early to tell, but alas, there could be hope for our world. I intend to ascend the spindle and answer the call, disciple. My protege Q-Girl has designed a climber for the ascent. We intend to construct it piecewise at the Enclave and the site itself, but the engineering feat exceeds even our capacity. With time, I'm confident that we could accomplish it, but the Putus Templar rob us of our patience. We need to act now, and as so, loath as I am to admit it, we need Pax Klanq. Pax Klanq is an eccentric mushroom prodigy. All its faults aside, it's a brilliant scientist and engineer, and I have little doubt that it could build the climber faster than we could. I like how stoic Colin's face is at this at the moment. Several years have passed since we were last in contact, but it owes us a debt, and we must now collect. Unfortunately, no one knows Pax Klanq's whereabouts. Through contacts I've made over the years, I inquired as to its location. The most I was able to garner were these enigmatic instructions. Quote, seek the heart of the rainbow, eat the god's flesh, and follow the coral path. I must ask you to decipher this enigma. Find Pax Klanq and convince it to construct the climber. Remind Pax of the debt that it owes us. It strikes me as likely for this, quote, rainbow to refer to the rainbow wood, where Klank's kin consort. So I suggest you start there.
Oh yeah, of course, the rainbow wood. That's
mhm.
sensible for sure.
Yeah, and I think Colin was joking about mushroom men at the start of this. But yeah, we are.
No, I knew there were mushroom men in here.
Oh, okay. Good, good clairvoyance
I mean, I'm pretty sure you
mutations.
posted something in our Discord about mushroom people. So
Yeah, very likely. And yeah, on the world map, there's a lot of stuff going on, and one of the biomes to the far east, past Lake, or no, before Lake Hinnom, is the Rainbow Wood, which is a very colorful rainbow, literally rainbow of mushroom trees that grow in the thick of the jungles of Qud. And this is where you are sent to next. And there's a way to very easily find where the quest for this is, but yeah, that will lead us into our next track here, called Substrate, which is what greets us upon entering the Rainbow Wood and this kind of general area of the world map. You're listening to Substrate from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. In case you were missing the goopy moistness of Golgotha, we've got
Always.
some more liquid pouring sound effects here. You arrive to the Rainbow Wood and you're immediately lost. A pop-up says you lose your way beneath a dense canopy of spores, and boy, fluids everywhere.
Caves of Qud.
Yeah. You are greeted with basically, and we'll probably talk about this more in the next episode, but fluids are a currency in this game. And it's almost like you've just entered the bank vault of currencies and liquids here, where you have basically like almost every fluid that you can think of in the game just kind of like openly weeping out into the open here. You have giant mushroom trees that are shooting out fungal spores and giving you itchy skin and all sorts of fungal infections and waxy coatings on your limbs, and you're on the hunt through this mushroom. It's not quite a maze, but you can't like fast travel over the world map to find it. You are forced to go on foot through this mushroom biome, and while being chased by primordial oozes who seep out of the ground, and and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe if a primordial sludge walks into a different fluid, it basically becomes like an upgraded sludge to the point where they can become like effectively like the most powerful creatures in the game very quickly.
Yeah, they start out as a mono sludge, and if they touch a different fluid than the one they currently like exist as, then they become a duo sludge, and then eventually they can become like a decahexa sludge, where they're just godlike. They are actually like possibly one of the more powerful creatures in the game if they become like a deca sludge.
Yeah, I mean, you get achievements. You can get Steam achievements for just killing like a pentasludge. And there was one time I was in some other dungeon elsewhere in the game, came across a pentasludge the first time, like, dear God, I gotta get out of here as fast as I possibly can.
They make very good companions though, because they're easy to upgrade.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about
You
that.
befriend them when they're small and then make them not small.
Yeah, you make them your weird little freak friend, and then they become a god freak.
That's Qud, baby.
Yeah.
Well, in this Rainbow Wood, you are scouring the area, looking for the Eater's Flesh, which is it's a mushroom vision quest, as you do in all
Shocker.
in all open world RPG games. You'll come across a zone. It's kind of in the middle of this Rainbow Wood world map, where there's one tile that looks slightly different. It's like a bigger mushroom than the rest of them. That's your goal, and there's ways to get to there. But in that area, there is a an exploded fungal-ridden corpse who has with them a really substantially very well written short story on them called "A Scroll Bound by a Strand of Kelp," and this is kind of detailing this person's just this like throwaway thing of like this corpse on the ground and their like journey through Qud and becoming a part of the Seekers of the Sightless Way, who are psychic hunters who, if you've chosen psychic mutations, will come and hunt you down. And there's a lot of text in here, but there was one paragraph that I wanted to crop out just to highlight. And in this book they say, quote, "I come now to Qud and the Seekers of the Sightless Way, the chanting compelled in my skull into a final ecstasy, wherein I joined an aggregate mind the likes of which I hadn't fathomed. I was primed for it, though, from my first joining on Ettenspine all those years ago to the rite of mirth chaperoned by the Free Seer. I knew that the sight guides us no more than salt does. There is ecstasy in the aggregate, indeed, and the elder, capital E, is as powerful as a center as I've known. But a center it is still, and where there is a center, there is hierarchy." Which I think is a very, I wanted to call that out as a very interesting contrast to the Daughters of Exile, who very much seek to not be part of a collective. It goes on in further detail about wanting to escape from the Seekers of the Sightless Way and their Sauron-like entity that they are compelled to serve. And I believe this person is waiting for this hunter to come hunt them down for a final battle. But as their fungal-ridden corpse maybe alludes to, maybe they didn't quite win that final battle. The text is a little nebulous, but I think is worth a read if you find it. Or again, all this stuff is up on the Qud wiki that you can go and read through. And you're just like, like I read through it maybe like twice because I didn't understand it the first time, but it just has so much good, deep world building to it.
Interestingly enough, I don't think I've ever encountered this corpse.
Really, it's very easy to miss. The Eater's flesh, I think, is like an orange tint to it, which I think is reserved for items of extra dimensionality. So like the Eater's flesh is an extra dimensional mushroom. You can get weapons that have like extra dimensional properties to them that are also sort of highlighted in orange. And the corpse itself is also orange. So it makes me think that like it is very easy to miss because there's so many colors in this area that are very visually overwhelming. But you pick up one of these mushrooms and you eat it, and all of a sudden, what was previously hidden is now an orange brick walkway in front of you, which is the path. The
Clever bit of design. Cool,
yeah,
cool.
Your extra dimensional brick, your orange brick road to follow to Pax Klanq. And you follow this through the mushroom woods to basically something that's just like a bunch of mushroom walls with no door to it. You're like, well, how the hell do I get in here? For me, I just like phase walked through it, but there's nothing preventing you from just knocking down the walls to this guy's house. And you show up and you're like, hey, Pax Klanq, I'm here on behalf of Barathrum. He says, Klanq want no visitors, so Klanq relocate workshop, half dimension away. Tasties after viewing plane. And you're like, hey, well, what about this? Are you able to kind of help with this quest that we're on? And oh yeah, like what you owe some sort of debt to Barathrum. And Klanq explains, Klanq puff on Prickles during lecture on light refraction. Prickles angry. You're like, well, what about the debt? And Klanq says, Klanq puff on debt. You're like, well, are you gonna help me or not? Like, what's your deal here, you weird mushroom freak? And says, Klanq puff on you. You host Klanq. You spread Klanq for Klanq. Then your Klanq
Ah.
shrivels away. Klanq puff on you. Then Klanq build jalopy. You are given this hilarious extra optional side quest to go and spread Pax Klanq, who is a fungus, by using this activated ability of like poofing your fungal spores in like an orange cloud. And you're given like, oh, go and spread it on like this item, or go like 30 levels deep and spread it deep in the earth, or go and spread it like here and there and all sorts of places in between. So it's an optional thing. It doesn't preclude, like, doesn't roadblock you from this main quest. And Pax Klanq agrees to, okay, yeah, I'll build your jalopy for you, sure. And well, along the way, if you just want to spread my fungal spores around on some extra stuff, that too would be great. But now that you've brokered this mushroom Einstein to join your cause, you go back to Gritgate and you talk to Barathrum. He says, all right, well, I have our next step for the quest here, as if you didn't think it was going to get crazy enough. Now, the climber, this is Barathrum the Old, the climber design relies on the use of electromagnets to interfere with the planet's magnetic field and generate torque. Unfortunately, the spindle generates its own interfering field, perhaps as a mechanism to prevent unwanted ascension. Our aim is to access the spindle's control unit and disable the field. How we accomplish this, however, is an enigma. From disparate bits across the archives of the Digitum, Ereshkigal has stitched together a cryptic but instructional brocade. She's learned the field can be turned off from a place called Bright Shoal, located in the Thin World, and accessible only through Resheph's tomb, inside the Tomb of the Eaters. Strange this and imprecise, but as tinkers we know, a crude blueprint is better than no blueprint. You must return to Omen Porch and enter the Tomb of the Eaters. Once inside, trace the errant paths cut into the mausoleum by robbers and vandals, and ascend to Resheph's burial chamber. As for gaining entrance to the tomb, Resheph sealed the gates 1,000 years ago, but there's a flaw in the seal. An ancient mark of death has been lost to time, but if you were to recover it and incise the mark on your body, the death gate would open to you, as it did for countless eater cadavers in the long blurred past. Recover the mark of death, listener, enter the tomb, and cross into Bright Shoal. Place your paws once again on the dial and drum. And you say, yes, of course I'll go on this bizarre quest that you have sent me for. Barathrum says, as I hoped you would, listener, take this disc with the signal encoded just in case. And take this tattoo gun for when you recover the mark of death. You'll want to bring a pickaxe, too, or some other instrument for digging through the stone. And beware, the tomb is a vast and ancient space, and sacred to many. I cannot speak for what you will experience there.
And then you say, you are so old.
Yeah.
So old.
You are so old.
Just disgustingly old.
What manner of creature is he?
He's an Resheph.
He's a very old albino bear with
right. Yes, yeah.
Quills, like spindly quills.
It's kind of like a cross between like a bear and a hedgehog.
A bear hog. A hedge
Bear
bear.
hog.
Yeah, and as you head back to Omen Porch, you will remember that the gravesite of Rebecca has some symbols attached to it at the very bottom that just happen to be the mark of death. And so you go back to Rebecca's grave and you pick up on that clue of, oh yes, these strange symbols at the bottom. Most of the graves in Qud do not have these strange symbols on them, as far as I know, maybe all of them, except for this one. And so you use the tattoo gun to tattoo that symbol somewhere on your body, as well as any kind of other tattoo that you should be so desired to inscribe on your lower back, for example.
Yep.
What did I do? I put a smiling dwarf picture on my left hand and the mark of death on my right hand, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, you walk up to the left side gate of death, bearing the mark of the dead, and opens up into our next track, titled Among the Tomb of the Eaters. You're listening to Among the Tomb of the Eaters, where we have now entered the 9-zone mega dungeon of Qud, and possibly like the titular super dungeon of the game. You enter and immediately have to jump down into basically like a catacomb filled with skulls, and there's kind of a lot to unpack here. We could maybe do an entire podcast episode just on this dungeon. There's all sorts of grave robbers and monsters, and a weird mechanic that because you have the mark of death on your hand, you are there's like a toll of the dead that resets your position back to like grave zones. So you're kind of
well,
given
that
like
sounds fun.
You're kind of given like a timer to like, okay, I've got to like jump from safety zone to safety zone between walls of compacted bone and like robot security guards and more gelatinous oozes and all sorts of other kind of inhabitants of this tomb. But
And presumably this particular mega dungeon has been in the game for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it was just exactly added when I started playing the game.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was like the last thing I heard was like added to it. The only thing I heard is like, oh yeah, they updated the game with like some kind of crazy temple with gods.
You heard Tomb of the Eaters, say no more. Sign me up.
Yeah.
As long as we're spoiling things, it's worth mentioning you do not need to tattoo yourself.
Yeah, if you have a means of like just phasing through walls, you can just like you could jump into this like halfway through the game, no problem.
I mean, there's always the trusty pickaxe.
That too.
In fact, they pretty much like tell you right straight up, you're gonna need a pickaxe.
Yeah.
Well, ever since we played Spelunky and had such a terrible time with it, I've written off all pickaxes in all games.
Well,
That's
so
a
that's why
shame.
you guys like a jackhammer.
Yeah.
You,
right.
yeah, you
One of
could have a
the
jackhammer.
classes starts with a jackhammer.
Oh, duly noted.
But as you progress through, you start on like the folk catacombs level, which is just like it's just a big pit that we throw skulls into. And as you ascend, you're kind of like circling around the spindle here, and like instead of going down like you would in the previous dungeons, you're going upwards. So you're circling around and kind of spiraling upwards to through like access corridors, and then you reach the crematorium level where the like in classic Golgotha fashion, conveyor belts are going through flame vents, and you have like giant industrial fans blowing you around, and there's fusion power stations. This is like a literal factorial area because there's rotating machine arms that are moving stuff. There's I think this is a very cute thing in the game. There are robotic urn dusters that are just like a little arm with like a little dusting thing on it that move around and like dust the ash urns. And there are crypts around here with just like loot everywhere. This is like a grave robber's treasure trove in a way, but there's so much. Like I'm just looking through the wiki page here. There's so many monsters and lag roots and gelatinous cupolas and ghost perches and stairwell teleporters. Like there's a ton to go over here that we're just gonna have to pass by in the sake of time. But this is one of those areas where it's just there's just so much stuff happening that like you could blink and miss all of like the holograph or the computer terminal interfaces of the dead and things like that. But you'll progress up through the crypts, from folk level crypts to nobility crypts, up until you reach the historic sites of the Sultan tombs. And this is where it's going to take us into our next track here for Deeper Eaters from Caves of Qud. Are listening to Deeper Eaters from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. This is the part of the Tomb of the Eaters from the Inner Tomb where there's no enemies here. You have entered an area, a dialogue box pops up, says you feel some ambient astral friction here. It says some dimensional interlopers attempt to enter this region of space-time, but the ambient normality field keeps them at bay. I have a lot written down here. I'm going to skip over a lot of it because this is another kind of thing to experience yourself. But as you've progressed through the game and you've been learning about these procedurally generated sultans, 5 out of the 6 of them, and the non-procedurally generated one, Resheph, that's the same every time. You're learning clues about like, oh, who were these people beforehand? And some of them have ancient historic sites detailing like, oh, at this site, this is where Yapparaptor II built their college of books and instructed everyone in the land of healing the stuff or whatever. Very kind of like specific interpretations of history as detailed by the statues that you found throughout the course of the game. Outside of this tomb, you come into this tomb and you go up one by one through the levels for each of these sultans of the previous histories. And you look at the walls and what's engraved on them, and something's not quite adding up here because you're reading new takes on the histories that you've already encountered thus far. Things like instead of them constructing a library, they actually were a librarian. And they had their books stolen from them instead of instructing the land. Very interesting twists like that. And in each of these tombs, there's a big reliquary of game-breaking Sultan loot, if it wasn't lost by them throughout the histories, that are guarded by like elite super monsters who are cultists who swear allegiance to these people. So should you feel so desired to try to loot and fight your way, have at it. But as you ascend, you come to the grave site of Resheph himself, the final sultan that is unfinished. There's no inscriptions here. There's no guards around a reliquary. There's no treasure chest. There's just an empty tomb. What's going on here? And there's a robot there named who I can only just assume is a pun on the ancient Greek historian Herodotus. The robot is called Herododicus, who, like his Greek counterpart, is the inscriber for all these things. And you enter a very hilarious dialogue tree with him, which I won't spoil too much of. But he basically says, like, well, what do you mean Resheph is dead? What do you mean the Sultanate's been dissolved? Someone would have told me by now, surely. And through different dialogue tree options, you can say, no, Herododicus, I am Resheph. You will entomb me now, puny servant. Or you can say, nope, just do it. And he says, well, okay, but first I have to image your head, read your self's narratives from the folds of your brain, cross-check it against the thin world's ambient log of your life's deeds. Then I stylize the story and engrave it on the walls. Once I'm done, then you can tomb yourself. And he goes about inscribing on the walls the very things that you are greeted with at the start, the title sequence of the game. The little yellow tile thingies that detail like these little images of like of what you have done in the game so far to great detail, with some twists. Like instead of going and doing a quest for Barathrum, it has some very we'll say generic interpretations applied to it. That you're reading it and you're like, wait, that's not what happened. I didn't do that. What are you writing that down for? That wasn't what I did at all. But in the end, you are tasked with entering the sarcophagus of Resheph. And the screen pops up with a dialogue box that says, the sealing mechanisms inside the sarcophagus will certainly kill you if you close yourself inside. Are you sure you want to enter the sarcophagus? Type entomb to confirm.
Wow,
Nice.
a real dungeon master. Are you sure? Okay, sort of thing.
And that's what you do. And you are entombed.
The end, and the credits roll. Caves of Qud.
That would be wild.
This used to be the end of the game.
What? Oh, really?
Well, with a little extra part here, but and you are greeted with a tombstone like you would if you died normally throughout the course of this game. It says like listener name, you were entombed in the burial chamber of Resheph, the Laugh Sultan. It gives you the little log of like these are the things that you were doing up until you were killed. And then it just kind of fades out to black, and you're like,
"What? Oh no, did I actually die?
What did Barathrum sign me up for here?" And then there's like computer babble that goes across the screen, like you're being. It's like the Matrix, where like you're being presented all of like these squiggles and squibbles of computer generated nonsense, and it looks like a computer bootloader screen that comes up that says, like, if you can kind of like squint your eyes and look at it very quickly, it says Ninhursag, which is in the same Sumerian family as Ereshkigal, the sentient computer from Gridgate. And it has some things like get seed, MOVBSHEOL, put seed, things that look very computery from like a BIOS booting perspective. And it goes into more kind of squiggly nonsense. And then it fades back out and the text come up and says, the darkness recedes and a new light breaks on the shores of your mind. This will take us into what used to be the end of the game, which is our next soundtrack, Attenuated Signals, Fractals for Bright Shoal. You are listening to Attenuated Signals, Fractals from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. This is what the soundtrack that greets you when you enter Bright Shoal, which is, for all intents and purposes, Qud Heaven.
Yeah.
Or the Qud Afterlife, or something else, ? That I will say, without spoiling too much of the end game, take note of this area. Is all that I'll say. Like the look and feel and design of this area. You are walking down what seems to be like this very verdant, I guess, if it was green, because it's all blue, hologram world that looks very much like when you encounter holograms of eaters or holograms of other statues and things throughout the game, this is the exact same aesthetic. It's the exact same animation palette that is used here. And you encounter a blue NPC here called Rainwater Shomer, who you talk with and who has a very like if I read out what they're saying, it sounds a lot more intelligible than when you read it because they are speaking in again ye olde English. Who says, "Saad, welcome. Saad, from thine here's shaken the wet and old life," which OLDELIF, to give you an indication. "Saad, into a small vessel pourin hit. Saad, to thine sash attachen the vessel. Saad, crossen new through the high gate and into bright shoal." I won't read everything that they have to say here, but this is kind of your Saint Peter to the gates of whatever lies beyond here.
The hollow gates.
The hollow gates. Saad, standing
Hollowed gates. That's pretty good.
Standing thou at the height gate to bright shoal, thine here's been wet with old life, shaken thine head and cross into new life. Aloft of Gaius a city twinkling, and there the seraph dreamin', and bright shoal is the dream. And you take a note in your journal. The Shomer Rainwater claims that bright shoal is the dream of a seraph who lives atop the spindle. And you negotiate with this ghostly entity to say, "I've come from the thick world with a mission to disable the spindle's magnetic field. Can you do this for me?" And Rainwater Shomer sits for a while and says, "Saad, the seraph spricken. Saad, thou asken, and the showroom assenten. Saad, wilt thou return to Salum or crossen into bright shoal?" And so you are given a task. Do you want to end it here, or do you want to keep going? And this used to be the end of the game where your only option was to just straight up end it. And you cross into the afterlife, and what happens, happens. And whatever things that the Barathrumites get up to, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Until 1.0, which is what happens next. So if you choose to go back to the world of Qud, previously called Salum, then you are basically like killed again, as it were, and reanimated in a different part of the map where the title or the screen pops up. The matter of your new body starts to thicken and clot. You're inlaid with ribbons of bone, tissue, nerve, and flesh. The neoteric body is differently charged. Tying inside you is another of the secret knots that bind the world. And you're given a bunch of upgrade points and all that stuff and XP dump. And
you're a special boy now.
Yeah, you are a special boy. You've literally come back from the dead and disabled the magnetic field. I'm scrolling through multiple pages of notes that I have here to kind of keep it moving. And at this point, you'll head back to Great Gate to talk with Barathrum. And he says, "You appear refreshed. My old eyes spy the swim lines of the waking world, and to you they cede precedence. A newness obtains." And you say, "Hey, Barathrum, I disabled the electromagnetic field for you." Lets out a deep and relieved sigh. "You are ever a courier of bright tidings, listener. I am fond of this fact. Categories and types are decohering in these historic times. Nonetheless, the ritual nourishes us. You are raised to the rank of Maven, the one who understands." And so Barathrum is laying out our final quest here. We're turning the corner towards the last bits of this main story here. He says, "High up on the mount above Omen Porch, the Putus Templar watch us through their war lenses and prepare an attack. The Girsh Nephilim, too, stir from their cradles on the moon stair and slump with infernal purpose. The short of this is due to a dearth of prep time and recording time here. And inadequate armament, Pax Klanq no longer believes in the viability of Q-Girl's climber design. We must take Klanq at its word here. This disheartens us, but there's another hope. Klanq has offered up a new design, something unconventional at all angles, and despite Our early misgivings, Q-Girl and I now work in assistance to the project. A new creature struggles to be born, listener, and you will help birth it. Then it will carry us, you and I, to the top of the spindle. Pax Klanq will mold the creature from raw bioelectrical materials. You must gather these entrails, a body as a model, a catalyst to charge the sanguine fluid, the Atmus as a deistic direction, the armament for protection, and the Hamza for personality. You will bond with this creature too and act as its pilot. You must speak an incantation to inscribe the connection. You'll also need to procure the sanguine fluid itself, and two, a power source shielded from electromagnetic attacks. Yes, the question of power.
You have to create the Evangelion.
You are
Yeah,
literally
speaking
building
of-
a Qud Gundam
Yeah.
at the end of this. Which is
Cuddum. All right.
Gundam.
Sweet.
And Barathrum says, yes, the question of power is a trickier one. Our standard power sources might suffice, but they would be vulnerable to electromagnetic attacks on the ascent, and we believe it is within the competency of the Putus Templar to execute such an attack. This leaves us with two options. Klanq and Q-Girl have worked out a design for a neutronic battery free from vulnerabilities on the EM spectrum, but it requires 3 drams of neutron flux. The alternative is remote power, but to carry us across the spindle's length, the power would have to be extraordinary. I would look to Shava, the Tree of Life, for a psychic quickening. Reports tell us of the resumption of their roaming, the trees roaming, across the moon stair. Seek the trunk at Eyn Roj and begin your investigation if that's the path that you choose. And so, yeah, you are literally constructing a Qud golem. And at this point, like, you may have already procured a lot of these items throughout the course of the game, but things basically like collecting weapons or fluids or things like that. But powering the golem is quite the choice. And I chose to do the long path here. And I promise we will be quick with this next one. But because I know Colin's getting a little itchy here. But this one I think is maybe my favorite track in the whole soundtrack. And this is one of one of the most hostile biomes in Caves of Qud, to the far, far east. This is where it's going to take us to the moon stair. You're listening to Moon Stair from the Caves of Qud soundtrack. I was
some proper endgame music here.
Yeah, this is an entirely optional area where, if you, in theory, you were like, I already got the neutron flux, it's fine. You would miss out on some of like the most creative stuff in the game here. Just the description of the moon stair, like on the world map tiles, it says hex prisms burst out of black marble beds, and their edges decohere as warm static dew. The stair purrs at a low frequency. And your quest is Eyn Roj, a trunk of a wandering crystalline tree that meanders about this biome, where the description of this tree is tucked into a marble glade is the cloven trunk of Shava, the tree of life. Its fallen leaves lay like a mirrored carpet, and the dream wrens chirr, a cycle carol. There's a lot going on here. The Moonstare is probably, like, even if you are a high level character, still crazy dangerous. This is where the
it's really funny because I have such a different perspective on the Moonstare.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bethesda Susa really sets you. It really forces you to acknowledge, at the very least, the importance of reputation. If you get to Moonstare with the right context, it is actually very kind.
Fascinating. And is that because, like, you can up your rep with oozes or mechanical apes or chrome pyramids?
Yeah, like the chrome pyramids are just robots, right? And they are, without a doubt, the most dangerous thing in the game. I think it's fair to say that. They're, I think, one of the few things in the game that can instantaneously vaporize you, even without knowing. Like, you have like a turn to react, maybe, and that's being kind.
Yeah,
but if you're friends with the robots, you know.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think I was maybe neutral or maybe not super great friends with robots, but yeah, you have robot donning apes. You have leering stalkers, which are effectively like Metal Gears roaming around here. You have chrome pyramids, which you will know that they're there before you see them because they have like reality warping, like almost like ripples across the screen that come about. But they have force fields. They have rocket launchers, they teleport, they are giant FU pyramids that almost belong something like from one of the Destiny expansions of sorts. And this is like, it is a super hostile environment that you're trudging back and forth, avoiding pools of warm static, which can randomize any effect that you have. They can give you good effects, they can give you bad effects. There are hexagonal crystals here that have a chance of creating exceptionally dangerous evil twins of your player character if broken. I joke a lot about like binary trees with like coding interviews and stuff. Here they don't have binary trees; they have n-ary trees because of the fractal nature of the area. They have there are n-dimensional tortoises running around. There are unicorns. There are just straight up triangles. This feels like the zone from Stalker. This feels like the forbidden area from Roadside Picnic. This feels like the place that like aliens have crash landed onto Qud and taken over this area. And maybe this is the future. Maybe this is our future, our dawning apes. Our future are all of these dream krungles that meander about. But your goal here is to seek out this tree. You're given a quest by one of the tree's leaves to take the leaf back to the trunk and descend 40 levels deep into the earth to the taproot. And I'm skipping over a lot here. There's so much to cover. But you get to the bottom 40 levels deep, and you are greeted by a legendary seeker of the sightless way, a psychic hunter called Ayog-No-Longer, servant of To in the cosmic wood, who you come up and you say, like, greetings, and they very callously say, the utensil arrives, you to prune the fate rhizome and free our girl. Now go and perform the motion. You say, you're a seeker of the sightless way? Huh? Utensil? Yes, that is my avocation. The million dead sons, or a million sun-dead homes I have roved. A trillion more await. I'm a worm in the loam of a cosmic wood, perched on a cosmic gulf, swathed in the god manifold. And you ask, like, where are you taking this like kind of dead NPC that I'm taking to its burial site? And they say, prune. The utensil prunes, but no, the utensil quivers and an uncertainly and vibrates out a question. The self is riddled with category errors. The thinking brain mistakes formation for meaning. You're like, please tell me. I wish to understand. Maggot, what do you think words are? Arrows of inquiry? Words are bricks. Each spoken is laid in bond and builds your prison. There is no understanding. You say, you reply back, I think, with one of the best lines in the game. Bricks can be thrown too.
Got him.
They
That's
say,
right up there with live and drink piss. It's one of my favorite lines in the entire game.
love it.
Live and drink.
wow.
Oh,
And then,
wow.
so Ayog says, you tarry on the future's boundary with abandoned utensil. Throw your brick if you dare. Just,
I can give a lot of context for this place, and it's worth noting that I think that Java and this completely optional quest is possibly the most important context for the actual end of the game, in my opinion.
yeah, there's some stuff that I'm glossing over about why you're taking this NPC to its quote burial site to be added into this almost psychic board collective of extra dimensional chaos entities, uh, because these NPCs have kind of seen the plague of the gyre, but they can also kind of see into the future, and they're scared of what the future, the very near future, might portend.
So what I'm
And-
hearing is, if we get this far, do this quest.
I think
it's optional for the game, but not optional for the fun of the
I
story.
wouldn't say that I wouldn't put it to anyone that you should do the quest. I'd say maybe on your second or third playthrough, if you are like, for me, two things are true about Caves of Qud. There's two reward structures for accomplishing anything and everything in the game. One is the actual soundtrack. I see it as the reward structure. When you actually get a new piece of soundtrack, that is the reward for all of your effort and trial. And the second one is context. Like having context for all the gobbledygook words that are thrown at you at the beginning of the game no other game touches it, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of that, because it really does make sense out of the pile. And so if you're seeking extra context, like what is going on here? Why am I doing all this stuff? Like, we've been going through the entire storyline here. It's worth noting you can get that far and still not know. What am I doing here? What is the point of all this? Like the spindle, sure, but like, what is the signal? What am I doing?
Yeah, there's a really great kind of like two layers to the story of like what you're doing and what you're doing within the context of the greater like universe spanning narrative. And there's no like you can't cover that in like a 2.5 or 3 hour long podcast. You can't do it. It would take us like an entire dedicated podcast to do it, or like one of those like role play like D&D podcast things of like, all right, session 75, we're finally in the cosmic wood.
I mean, to do it real justice, you do one episode per song.
There you go.
Yeah.
But
well, doing these things, laying the still chime to rest, you've brokered the giant psychic tree to power your golem from a remote distance, which Colin, as your engineering background will know, that's a lot of energy to send over remote transmission.
yeah.
And you head back to Barathrum at Gritgate. And you say, it's done. We got the power source. And he says, that's great. You've built the golem. It's walking around now, and we're at our final track, or I guess the final track that we're talking about. Barathrum says, now our operators at Omen Porch confirm that a clash with the Templar is inevitable. This is a grim fact, but it does give space for your bond to flower. Go, become familiar with leading and piloting your creature. When you are ready, we will finally go starward. And you are, your text pops up. You receive a copy of, in all yellow caps, Operating Manual for Large Creature! ! This is one of the only thing, I think this is, as far as I know, the only thing that you can enter as like a separate screen zone and pilot and basically become this creature as your player character. But the only thing that's left now is to take your custom created Gundam to the battlefield that surely awaits us at the base of the spindle to fight for the final battle of this game, which is going to take us into the last track that we'll talk about here. Arrival of the official party. You are listening to the final battle music, Arrival of the Official Party from Caves of Qud. This is the music that greets you upon arriving at Omen Porch for the last time. And holy shit, like this is like everything that I was looking forward to for like if you enjoyed the combat to this game, and sometimes it can be kind of hit or miss. This is like a Battle of the Pelennor Fields style invasion slash attack slash everything rolled into one, where you're battling in Ezra. You are having Six Shrew, the annoyed plant, catch on fire and run around and trying to fight some Putus Templar. You have 16 zones or 16 screens around the spindle that you have to go and clear out of the Putus Templar threat. You are fighting Knight Commanders of the Holy Temple, the Grand New Father, a Temple Mecha Part Mark II from the Putus Templar. And, as if that wasn't enough, they at some point summon one of the 7 Girsh Nephilim themselves to come and fight against you as a kind of like mother brain boss battle here, where I had amassed a crew of some pretty tough NPCs with me for this, because I knew that this was going to be a big deal. And seeing like Six Shrew catch on fire and run around and die, like sent like a wave of permanence through this that felt like it had real consequences, like the Gritgate fight didn't have, of like, this is it. This is the final battle. Like, you are marching against like Sauron's forces, it feels like. And I feel like the soundtrack here, aside from like the goofy horn music that kind of sounds a little circusy, it just like in the heat of the battle for this, it is just so overwhelming and so like frightening in a way that like, yeah, this end battle certainly has earned its reputation, I think.
So a couple things to know. I just want to throw in my 2 cents here. I don't believe the Girsh has anything to do with the Putus Templar. I don't believe they summon him. And for me, this track has like a dual purpose of, man, the Putus Templar sure are lame. Like they to me, they represent the horn. There's just like this like little frontier of like, oh, we're gonna get you, you know, nasty Resheph, and they're just there. And as it transitions, you realize your actual foe here, the real actual enemy is this Girsh god. Like there's like nothing else describes them.
And
you know,
it's important to note that like when you're piloting the golem, like it's so like laughably overpowered that you're just like rolling over all of these Putus Templar ads, as it were. And like some of the bigger guys are putting up a good fight, but they're definitely like the little orcs on the Lord of the Rings battlefield. the Girsh Nephilim is like Sauron itself has manifested, and like your wildly overpowered golem is going toe to toe with. So like before that, like you get another screen shake, and it screen pops up and it says, "Ugh," with like five L's. The electric or the arcing world moan of the Nephilim resounds, and your body throbs in the electric air. It has arrived to the west, or some cardinal
It's
direction.
like the Witch King or
Yeah.
Sauron from the beginning of the movie in the like the intro.
Yeah, 100%. And the description, so for mine, I fought Girsh Nephilim, who resides under Golgotha, and the description for this guy is a creature of immensity, and I think this is for most of them. A creature of immensity mounts the upper eye line. The monstrous slumping head is moated with warts and freckles, and a soaking wattle rains putrid sauce on the floor. Years of slouching under pipeworks has smashed his dialectopus spine, and the sponginess of matter has left him boiling and sick from his surroundings. Finally, irresidual light churning under his Tix glass skin is filtered to a sickening hue and radiates out of body in litous spirals.
I
That's a
forgot
good,
that.
yeah,
I forgot that. I forgot that you fight one of the seven.
yeah.
One of the seven, unless you make friends with them.
And I think crucially, if you go on a hunt of all of them, like let's say you go and kill all six of them, the last one is like combines all of the powers of the slain ones.
Yeah, that's the one I had in mind.
Yeah.
There's nothing as strong as that. Like I was playing last night, Baetyl at Golgotha for the record. And Narf was like, "Oh, are you gonna try and fight the thing?" I'm like, I don't think I'm ever gonna fight that thing. I don't think I'll ever do a run where I fight that thing. That is the most intimidating creature I've ever seen in a game.
And this is something that like you're going toe to toe in like it's like a Pacific Rim level like boss battle between some kaiju and your constructed robot where like this one of the seven like this monstrous pile is like charged like the aesthetics of this boss battle are amazing too because like for a tile based grid based game like the little like arcing artistic effects that are shown here where like there's like spiraling wave patterns and like you can feel this being charging up and then it shoots out like this rainbow beam in multiple directions like in standard Mother Brain like format. You're just like, dear God, what even is this? And you're like super mecha with like it's like super like Zetachrome long blades is like fighting with like against like these giant hooks. It is something that like it looks really silly just like from a screenshot of like this little like blob versus like this other blob. But in the moment, it feels like this just absolutely titanic battle for control of whatever the future is. But yeah, so you eventually and oh, I guess like during all of this, like other Barathrumites, like in each one of these screens, there's like Putus Templar, like little ads, and there's like Barathramite bear NPCs fighting each other in every one of these screens. Like there's like dozens of NPCs dying all the time, and
things are happening.
Things are happening
that aren't you.
Yes, and it is just like this is like we thought Chaos Spiel before. This is it in its entirety. Like there's just so much bloodbath and like permanent consequence happening. And hopefully this whole time Barathrum the Old has been safely piloting your golem for you, or otherwise hiding inside of it, because otherwise I don't think this is quite the space for an old man to be hanging out. But you do it. You defeat the dead god of the plague, whoever it might be that approaches you at the end here. And in many of these old traditional roguelike games, there's a concept of that's called ascension, where you go down deep into the dungeon, you grab the amulet, and you ascend back up to the top. And here we are literally ascending. We are ascending the spindle, because our golem here has some kind of device that we can attach to. we go through the other gate. We go through the gate of life of the entryway here into the tomb, and you are greeted with like a graphene ribbon that's just kind of going up, and it just looks like, okay, this is it. This is where we go to find our fate, basically. And Barathrum says, "Are you sure, listener? Our fates are not reversible past this next event horizon." Oh, what is it? I heave the weight of ass across my crutch, but the bones are pull-proof. My bones in insulcate to this grotto, or rather, this grotto, this world is what my bones are. Can an old bear divest of his spine, leave it to the mosses and to the sun-strung birds? No matter. The will can break the wheel too. We go. Pray. The weight loss of the rise might do good for me. Past the shell of the world, I'm to understand one's burdens can no longer pull them down. And then you decide to ascend and find what fate awaits you there. We're not going to spoil that. We're going to leave it to you, because we've done a lot, and I applaud my co-hosts for sticking in this far. Thank you, Aaron, also, for all of this. But this is where we leave the listener to see what awaits their fate might be up at the top of the spindle. And normally I end these programs with like, what are similar games? I guess maybe, but in this case, similar stories, and similar games / stories. To this would be, I guess, most top of the list is Gamma World, the tabletop RPG that I think this derives a lot of inspiration from. There's another kind of version of that called Mutant Crawl Classics.
I was going to recommend that. It's one of my favorites. I love that game.
Yeah, which is maybe more bite-sized. Colin, I think you mentioned Gene Wolfe's Book of the New Sun series.
Yeah, it was very, very similar in thematic vibes.
Yeah,
it makes sense that this game had inspiration pulled from it.
Yeah. There's the book that I think I mentioned before called Roadside Picnic. That definitely, it feels very, very Qud-like in certain respects. There's one of the quest names I think derives largely from this. The book called A Canticle for Leibowitz.
Yeah,
I think is also a solid, like, yep, you can 100% see like the eons of time and cycles of death and rebirth of societies and things like that. I'll just casually throw in this other book that some people may have heard of, Dune. Maybe you've heard of it. It feels very appropriate. And there was one that I think someone recommended me called Moonbound by the author Robin Sloan, which is supposed to have some pretty decent Qud vibes.
That's interesting. I haven't heard of that one. I also think that there's I mean, it's pretty obvious, but a lot of religious texts play into Caves of Qud, including things like the Bible and like some of the sort of Jewish stories. I can't speak to specifics because I'm not so familiar, but I do know that they play a fairly large part of sort of the back end of the lore.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here about like where like is Qud Earth? Like there's references to other like Earth locations like the Australian city of Perth. But yeah, like does this take place on a certain part of like the Levant? Like what is the connection here between like our real Earth world and whatever this kind of 1,000 years hence from technological prowess of this dead society? Like where does that intersection? But yeah, I think that's kind of gonna wrap us up for the main story quest of Caves of Qud. Whew. In a nutshell. Skipping over a ton of stuff.
This game's been in development for 17 years, and after hearing a summary of the storyline, I believe it.
Is it still being developed, or is the 1.0 like?
I think I can say, because it was officially stated that there will be DLC. There will be post-game added. I can also say that one of the biggest things that is being worked on right now is localization, which
Oh, yeah,
Good luck
you
on
know,
those teams.
that's another
Oh,
17
boy.
years
yeah,
based off of.
so I'm honestly astounded that they even entertained it, and
Yeah.
I've been able to see some of the stuff going into it, and it's like actual sorcery,
Yeah,
sorcery
that
going
sounds.
on.
I mean, just from hearing the writing, that sounds. It seems like something that would be extremely difficult to do justice.
Yeah,
How are
no,
you
my
gonna
hats off.
translate live and drink piss? That's
Tastefully.
Yeah,
tastefully. Yes, of course. That's the answer. Well played.
yeah.
Well, do we have anything that we want to wrap up with about the story before
Aaron, what are you working on? Where should we tune in for more Aaron content?
Well, I'll be honest. I've been taking kind of a break from YouTube, but you can still find me on there. I'm Big Simple on there, and I will eventually do more stuff. I was working on the revised version of the tutorials, but it is a pretty massive undertaking, and I won't lie, I kind of burnt out on it a little bit. But that's not to say I'm giving up on that endeavor. So you can still find my old Caves of Qud tutorials on there. They are far less spoilery than this podcast was. They are. I try to be as careful as possible to kind of, not quite hold your hand, but to explain things in a way that you can still discover the rest of the game without necessarily struggling too much to do so.
Yeah, and I think we'll be having Aaron back for our second part on the more kind of gameplay mechanics and overall sort of design of the game. We didn't talk anything about like
Yeah, so this
water
is a
economics.
real-time strategy game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, Andrew, it's an FPS.
Oh,
I think it's
perfect.
officially we got our first official genre definition for what Caves of Qud is on Blue Sky the other day. It's a sicko game.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like Slay the Spire.
Yeah. Mm.
Oh, sorry, we have a
Well,
meme where we have to mention Slay the Spire once per episode. So
Oh, I gotcha.
I was just
Yeah,
ticking
yeah.
that box.
Yeah, it's a Slay the Spire like.
I mean, there is. It's more of Slay the Spindle though.
Slay the
Ooh,
Spindle.
Boom.
There you go.
Nailed it.
It just takes
All
a little
right.
more time to get there.
That's gonna wind down our part one of Caves of Qud. I don't think part two will be quite nearly as excruciatingly in depth here. But to play us out from this massive story experience will be our arrival to what awaits us at the top of the spindle with our final soundtrack piece here, appropriately titled Arrival. But we will see you at the top of the spindle in our part two coming in a week, discussing more of our standard kind of GROGPOD episode format on the gameplay mechanics and general discussion of the game. But we will see you there.